This is Les from That's My Entertainment, and I'm lucky enough to be here chatting with
Sergio.
And now you directed the documentary Iron Fists and Kung Fu Kicks.
That's right. Yes,
which I got to watch last night. I would recommend everybody go find it as soon as it's available to you.
Thank you.
It's a documentary that does something very special for me. It takes a subject that I feel like I already knew a fair amount about. I mean, if your friends are nerdy about Kung Fu movies, you've all watched the same ones over and over. We've all been in a long conversation dissecting Bruce Lee. But this documentary showed me some connections between these eras of Kung Fu.
Yes.
Wire work was new to me in The Matrix,
Yes.
and then I didn't realize I already knew this from years ago, prior to a whole other set of movies.
Sure.
For you as a director, coming up with the narrative arc that you wanted the documentary to make, what was the most surprising connection, or what changed in the path of you making it?
It's funny, Les. I don't think a lot did change. I think I knew the story I wanted to tell. And look, I co-wrote with Grady Hendrix. I don't know if you know Grady Hendrix. And Grady and I met up a while ago, and I kind of pitched my thesis to him, and he said, "Yeah, that's my thesis too." And we sort of just went. And it was the story I really wanted to tell. And so, what was surprising? I don't think a lot was surprising. I mean, I heard a lot of stuff that I can't say on the record because from different people, and that's more gossip than anything else. But I don't think I was really, to be honest, really surprised by anything that I came across, because I had done my diligence. I kind of really wanted to tell this arc of the story. You know, we've heard a lot about certain things, and a lot of other stuff has got. The hip hop kind of period is interesting to me because everybody knows the Wu-Tang and the RZA kind of story, but I wanted to, and that's the sort of rap side. I wanted to talk about the breaking side, you know, this kind of connection, because we also talk about the connection of dance very early on with Chain Pepe, and then, you know, again with Bruce Lee bringing that kind of movement into it, and there was this kind of third chapter of dance, if you like.
Yeah.
And so I was pretty clear about what I wanted to say.
That change in connection was something that really stuck out to me. Like you said, if you've heard the Wu-Tang Clan, you are obviously aware that they are really into Kung Fu movies, and a very particular set of them. But I had not ever put together this callback to Chinese opera.
Yes.
And this combination of an oppression narrative, and these connections to, and then the very logistic connection of the same theaters in, like, the cheap theater that you could go see 4 movies in a row if you didn't have any money on a Saturday was Kung Fu movies.
Yes, totally.
I had not put together the storm of how these influences all came to be, so that for me, when I first heard Wu-Tang Clan, I thought, man, these kids stumbled into this out of nowhere.
Yeah, right.
But no, it has this long connection with breakdancing, with hip hop, with black cinema.
Yep.
In the course of finding people to talk to about the movie, who was your favorite ex-action star, current action star to get to speak to? Who do you think kind of evolved your understanding of the story?
Someone I really wanted to speak to, and who doesn't do a lot now, is Andre Morgan, who was with the executive. He was head of international at Golden Harvest, and someone I really, really wanted to talk to, because, you know, Chow's no longer with us, Ramron Chow's no longer with us, and the great thing about Andre is he's an American who kind of brought this sensibility, this kind of Hollywood sensibility, if you like, to an American perspective to Golden Harvest, and he was someone that knew Bruce Lee really well, and it's someone that I, you know, pursued quite a lot, and the stars aligned, and I got to speak with Andre, and that was someone I really, really wanted to speak to. I was very lucky to speak to pretty much everybody I asked. I think there was maybe 2 or 3 people that just scheduling it couldn't happen. And I wanted to speak to people that kind of gave you a backstory as opposed to the front of house. If you get what I mean. Yeah.
I feel like the documentary did deepen several things that I maybe knew the front of the house story. I knew when Jackie Chan came over to the States and tried to make the same movies, that the insurance and the Hollywood studio machine were like, "Are you nuts?" But seeing the footage of the kid outside the car, I don't know that was a Chan movie now that I think of it, but these things are insane. And then the director just going, I don't think we could do that. And, no, man, I don't think you could. It was that realism, though, that I recognized was special when I saw these movies as a kid.
Yes.
It wasn't that I wondered if they sped the film up. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. It was the realism of being pretty sure someone got their tooth knocked out by Sammo right then. And,
totally.
And then hearing it, yes, he did.
And get up and let's do it again.
Yeah, put it in your pocket and let's, we're going again.
Yeah.
For you getting into these movies, you can't have made a documentary like this and not love it yourself.
Yes.
What first spoke to you about Kung Fu?
It's kind of interesting. I grew, because I'm Australian, but I grew up just outside of DC in the sort of mid to late 70s.
Okay.
And that's when the Kung Fu boom kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
And, Bruce Lee broke. I used to sit with my dad and watch the David Carradine Kung Fu. And I did collect the trading cards, and I still got them. And I didn't get the irony then, which I sort of later did, obviously.
Yeah.
But that sort of kind of turned me on to this thing. I've got a sort of, on my dad's side, there's a bit of a Chinese background. Can't see it, but it's there. And my surname is Chinese. And so I had this kind of thing about, Chinese culture and Chinese tradition. And we sort of got into that. And then I had some African American friends who really got into Bruce Lee. And they were making nunchucks, nunchucks and that sort of thing. And I really got excited about this kind of, not a subcultural thing, but this idea that they were, something cool was happening. And that's sort of what turned me on, really. And then I got to, when I first saw the Shaw Brothers films, it was center cut, terrible. Terrible copies, that sort of idea. But then I got to see the originals in all their glory. I think the first Bruce Lee film I saw was Big Boss, and that was kind of like, whoa, who is this dude? So as a filmmaker, what I loved about these films is they're just beautiful. They are beautiful for many reasons. They're cinematically gorgeous. They're
the costumes and
the costume, the production design, all that stuff. And what I love about a couple of things is that, one, I reckon it's the cinema of the underdog. It speaks to everybody. You could be this guy if you put the work in.
Yeah.
And you didn't need to be some sort of superhero or some sort of special agent or something like that. And that sort of spoke, and also the authenticity of the films. And this is what you sort of mentioned, this idea about the wire work and the idea of people actually sort of putting the work in. You were looking at, it was authentic because these people could do this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a visceral thing, and it kind of, you can see it and you can tell. And
yeah, I think even after I understood how harnesses and wires work, and as you start to understand, it's not entirely magic, that there are people that made this.
Yes.
There was still an appreciation for good wire work. I mean, how difficult. Okay, so you can't jump 3 stories and do a bunch of flips. Putting that harness on and then making me not see you in the harness is still an insane amount of work, and I think it was still the Matrix that expanded that for me and let me go back and watch some of these older movies.
Totally.
The moving forward bit of the documentary, talking about where the next breakthrough in act that you think, okay, well, I've seen The Greatest Action, we're just going to keep rehashing this, have a narrower hallway or a different style.
Totally.
Maybe we've already done it all. We haven't.
No.
Long Box seemed brand new. Yeah. The Raid seemed, a Welshman doing that seemed brand new. The statement that really sung out to me in the doc was, wherever they don't value their stuntmen's lives is where the next breakthrough in action will come. Have you seen anything recently that dropped your jaw?
Oh gosh, lots. It's funny because I'm going back to now something I wanted to look at was the new Ip Man stuff that's happening. I didn't have the opportunity to examine that. There's just so much we couldn't touch on. And I can tell you all the things that I think of. People are saying to me, well, where's this and where's this and where's this? And I go, no, I know.
You have to make choices.
Yeah. But I think the line is where it's at. I think people are kind of taking. It's interesting. The Raka Raka guys, they're in Australia.
Yes.
And I don't even remember the old backyard fighting videos that was a big thing in the sort of early noughties. they sort of came through that thing, and that was, you talk about risk taking.
God, yes. Even just the bit of footage you have of those guys. I think one of them's like, yeah, we're the friends that your mom will not let you play with. Dead on. Yeah.
But the interesting thing is they sort of started that way, but then they were kind of going, oh, we've got to examine this stuff. Where did it come from? What does it mean? And they kind of sort of started bringing that whole heritage back into what they're doing, which is, it's kind of this insanity, but with a purpose, which I think is really cool.
I found it to be a really great combination of that feeling that Kung Fu movies inspired in all of us, that we could just suddenly go into our backyard and do crane style. And like this isn't centuries of training of learning here. And movie making feels the same way.
Yeah.
We've lowered the barrier of entry on being able to make movies now, and
Totally.
you can do crazier stuff.
Yeah.
I hadn't really considered that the kids now going out and doing Kung Fu in their backyard could also do Adobe After Effects and crazy
Totally.
stuff in Premiere, you know,
Totally.
and make it like the Rocka stuff.
Totally. And I mean, another person I spoke to was Eric Jacobus, who's doing a lot of stunt work and a lot of motion capture stuff, a lot of game work. And he's one of those guys. He started in the backyard, now he's working for Hollywood, and he's made that progression. Again, the Raka guys are in LA at the moment, you know, working out their new deal.
Oh, nice.
Which is really, really good. And so there is that kind of, that's where you got to look now. You got to look at what's happening on the fringes, and it always has been. I mean, you look at independent cinema.
Yeah.
It's always been, you know, let's make a film for $8,000, and
Yeah, I mean, at one point that straight to VHS was the fringe.
Totally. And then we sort of had the indie auteurs, you know, the Rodriguez's and the Tarantino's sort of coming through, and I think the new phase. I mean, again, I'm not an authority, but I reckon it's going to be online. You're going to find these kind of special guys, and they're going to be the ones that take us to the next level. And sort of point I was trying to make with the Indian kid at the end, you know, it's just a kid in India who's kind of seen some stuff and is trying out, and maybe he could, you know.
What's Indian Kung Fu? I'll know in 20 years.
That's right, exactly right. Yeah. So, you know, it's really cool.
Thank you so much for chatting with me about it.
Thanks.
I really enjoyed the documentary, and I hope everybody who's ever said "hiya" at anything will go out and watch this. I think you'll find something to really enjoy and learn something new. There's a lot about the Shaw Brothers Golden Harvest back and forth that I did not. I didn't understand how many mistakes Shaw Brothers made when I think of them as this unstoppable behemoth.
Yes.
And they missed out on so many opportunities.
Yes. But at the same time, we're very, very
Yeah, they
successful,
didn't need it.
They didn't need it. Yeah.
I love the idea that they looked into the American market and went, no, we're good. It's incomprehensible. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I really appreciate it.